Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Sunday, August 18th, 2024. It is the day of the god, which means it is the day of the sun, Suna's day. It is the 28th of Leo, the 14th of Hazel, the 28th of Salmon, the 23rd of Hayanir, which is the haymaking month. Now on to our astrology. The sun is in Leo, fixed fire, representing achievement. The moon is in second quarter Aquarius, fixed air, representing rebellion. Mercury is retrograding in Leo, fixed fire, representing fragile relationships. Venus is in Virgo, mutable earth, representing perfectionism. Mars is in Gemini, mutable air, representing to be pugnacious. Jupiter is in Gemini, mutable air, representing questing. Saturn is retrograding Pisces, mutable water, which is to redefine dreams. And Uranus is in Taurus, fixed earth, representing renovation. Neptune is in retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which is spiritual awakenings. And Pluto is retrograding in Aquarius, fixed air, meaning to examine intentions. So a little closer look at our planetary retrogrades. For Mercury retrograde, you need to reevaluate your communication patterns. Then for Saturn, it's about reclaiming your authority. Neptune, reclaim faith, joy, magic, imagination. For Pluto, reclaim your ability to regenerate. And for Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. Now for our moon phase, for this, it is the waxing gibbous, which means we need to cultivate our intentions. And as we have an Aquarian moon, some of our do's are socialize, group projects, seek wisdom. Some of the don'ts are getting too bogged down in personal and petty concerns, falling into the trap of unbridled idealism. Reality always reasserts itself, so you always have to consider that in your calculations when you're trying to implement your grand schemes. And then also, it's probably best to avoid people who have very predictable minds. If someone doesn't really have anything to add to the conversation beyond the ideas they have regurgitated 1,000 times, probably not whose counsel you really want to seek out at the moment. So, as it is the day of the sun, the Leo sun is wanting to get up, get going, and get things done. And this is aligning rather beautifully with the Aquarius moon that's also wanting to move forward to the next step, push everything forward, advance. So you might find yourself much more inclined to fostering cooperative relationships today and to focus upon the task at hand and not the emotions that might be surrounding the task. If you've been having kind of an emotional upheaval lately, today is your day to actually get a break from all of that. Now, for our tarot card of the day, we have the Queen of Pentacles. Queens represent extroverted intuition, everything that your intuitive senses, it's feeding on outside stimuli, and you're looking to observe what's going on with that. And then with Pentacles, think the rational feminine, receptive energy, earth element, material action. And the keywords for this card in particular are caring and nurturing, valuing her child rearing more than her own life, financial security, being very down to earth, the housewife, creation, being very sensible. And the main thing that I took away from the card for today is that we can allow ourselves to care and commit, which is a truly frightening thing because you don't really fear to lose the things that, don't matter to you. And of course, if you do end up losing something that matters to you, the pain, the anguish, trying to rectify the situation, sometimes it isn't rectifiable. There's just a whole host of things that make people draw back. But they're making that decision based upon fear, not based upon really what's best, not feeds their own humanity, not what enables them to take on their proper role of the world. So whatever it is in your life that is calling upon you to really make that commitment to invest and to just say, I'm ride and die now, come what may. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to focus upon. Whatever that thing is for you, this card is giving you a pretty firm nudge saying, yeah, you need to go ahead and do that. Overcome your fears, maybe ignore people who are trying to counsel you to maintain maximum detachment as if that's somehow going to lead to a better life. Those are the voices that you probably don't need to be. Okay, now that the video is back, let's go on to our Celtic Triad. Three things which make one glad. their mate loving them, their labor prospering, and their conscience easy. Again, this is very straightforward, doesn't require much elaboration from me, because of course it's important and it makes a person feel better about life in general when they do have a loving mate. The foundation of adult life, contrary to some popular opinions, is actually our primary relationship. This would be either a spouse or someone who we have been with and we are committed to for such a length of time that it's, a marriage in all but legality. And that relationship really does need to be in order if we are going to truly thrive. You need to know that you have a partner in life, that someone has your back. Everything is so much harder, and it lacks the meaning as it is when you are working together with someone in that close of a relationship. And then, as far as work goes, we do need productive and meaningful work, because work without greater purpose, that very swiftly becomes hell. And, the little annoyances and inconveniences that might just be the nature of the beast, that you wouldn't really notice them. But if you feel like it is all without purpose, it's all pointless, you're wondering, is the purpose of my life to do nothing more than just to slave away for this company, and so the tax man can collect money from me, and so I can have all my money spent on its other bills and then have nothing else to show for it? Is that the meaning of my existence? Of course it isn't. But when a person gets to feeling that way and that they have no other escape, well, it's no wonder that people have mental health crises and even sometimes go as far as harming themselves. I mean, it just, bottom line, our labor has to create more than just a paycheck for us. We need to do more than simply exist. Otherwise, we do not thrive. Then, on the matter of easy conscience, we can escape a lot of things, or at least we can ignore a lot of things, but we can never really get away from a sense of deep rooted guilt. This is a clear indication that a clear conscience is really worth more to us than gold, because if you are not at ease within your own spirit, if you really think you have violated some kind of important moral principle, you're not going. You're not going to be able to ignore that, distract yourself from it. Sooner or later, you're going to be called back to that thing, and you're going to have to rectify the matter, because your conscience has no mercy. It will not leave you alone. All right, next up, we have today's magical correspondences. They are centered on the theme of attraction. The color for this is orange. The plant is the trumpet vine, the animal is the pheasant, and the crystal is the carnelian. And I would really like to drive this home, especially since the world is in such a state of uproar. There's great uncertainty, and people are very much afraid that their worst fears will be realized. We've got to remember, and as for those of us here who are witches, we've really got to take the lead and letting people know that our energy is where it is focused. That is going to determine what we attract into our lives and ultimately what is manifested. If we see nothing but the bad, if we see nothing but the worst possible case scenarios, that's exactly what we are bringing closer and closer to us. It is the most terrible form of self-sabotage that there is, and it's so difficult to resist that urge, because you think, there's a problem, I need to figure it out. Well, yes, you do, but the manner in which you need to figure it out is just as important. If you are just consumed with fear and acting out of fear, everything you fear is being brought closer and closer and closer to you until the worst actually does occur. We need to be very solution oriented. We need to be thinking, okay, since we don't like the status quo, what is it that we do want? Having affirmative visions, taking positive, productive steps towards creating what we want, that is going to actually do a lot more to sideline the worst possible case scenarios than if we were just solely focused upon what's the most dreadful thing that could possibly happen. And that's all I'm going to think about. I know it's difficult. I struggle with it. That's one of the reasons why I created the Oak and Elder Witchery, because we're all going through this at the same time. Our challenges might be a bit different. Not all of our worries are exactly the same, but we're all going through something. And sometimes it helps to gather together with other people, and we can all hold each other's hands and remind ourselves, well, okay, we've got to focus on the future. We've got to focus upon what we are trying to do. We're not going to be able to effectively counteract the things we don't want if we can't see beyond that. So there's a nag. I'm sure that did not go down well in some quarters, and I'm sorry. I hope you know that it is very much kindly meant. And I just would like to remind everyone that I do appreciate the difficulty of this, because I am in that boat right there with you. This is not an easy thing to do. It does require self-discipline, but we can do it, especially if we rally together and encourage each other. So next up, today's practice. You might brew some chamomile tea, or failing that, some citrus tea. I personally don't care for the taste of chamomile. I know that is controversial. Okay, video's back. I know it is controversial and sometimes blasphemous for someone not to like chamomile tea. So for those of us who don't, maybe a citrus tree tea would do us a little better. A few years ago, I discovered a black lemon tea, and I think the brand was Bigelow, but don't quote me on that. But it gave me such a zoom, and it really focused my mind and got me in the mood to get out there and get things done. So especially if you have a long to-do list, or you're feeling that energy of the sun coming together today with the moon, and you're saying, yes, I just really want this to be a productive day. Having some chamomile tea, having some citrus tea, that is one of the things you can do to set yourself up for success. Next up, it's Sunday, so we have come back around to the Hermetic principle of mentalism. Now, with mentalism, it essentially is the idea that everything actually begins with ideas. Everything begins with thought. Thought is the foundation of all. And for those of us who practice magic, I think the way we live our lives, we know over and over again, everything that we ultimately manifest into the waking world begins up here. It begins with our ideas and our thoughts. Thinking about what it is that you are actually wanting to manifest, and don't get bogged down in how difficult it might be, or any obstacles that you see, or that you don't really see a clear pathway to making what you want happen. Try not to worry about that at this stage. Just think about what that thing is. What is victory to you? What is the destination you have in mind? What do you think is just a better place for yourself and for other people to be in? Focus upon that. Start using this principle, and we'll get on to how we might be able to bring things about, in later days. Also, for the Witch's Pyramid, today is the day where we look at that foundation. Knowledge is always the foundation of everything. Even for people who, and I think anyone who's really meant to be in the craft, when they look back on their childhood, or look back to a point in time where they weren't really aware of what the craft was, how to use magical capabilities, what they were, how they worked, any of that, still their instincts served them very well. And they just did things a certain way. They went about certain things a certain way. Their worldview was structured in a particular fashion that predisposed them towards intuitively using their capabilities, even if it wasn't as refined as what they can do now. However, in order to become that more refined, more realized, much more sophisticated practitioner, that is going to require the taking in of knowledge. And this isn't about impressing other people. This isn't about acquiring credentials that are supposed to impress anyone else. I had someone pull a trick like that with me the day before I recorded this, and they were shown to the door very, very swiftly, because it isn't about trying to set ourselves up as some kind of authority that other people should listen to, and that they should submit their views to our own. That isn't what the foundation is about. The foundation is about learning about how things work in the natural order, because the energy of magic, it is an aspect of that natural order. So the more we understand these things, the better we can actually wield our magic and do things to good effect. Another thing you might do is make yourself some sun water for spell work. I hunted up this particular cheat sheet on Pinterest. Pinterest is so useful. It was originally posted by a lady called Love by Luna, and it describes basically your process for how this would be done. You begin with finding a clean glass jar, and you cleanse its energy. Smoke is one way to do this. Then you pour filtered or spring water into your jar, best water you can possibly find. Then you hold it in your hands, you bless it with your intentions, and you would do this specifically with, you would be essentially, you go back to one of your early energy exercises where you just visualize a golden orb of intention coming out from your body, and you let it travel down through to your fingertips. You rub your hands like this together. You feel an orb of energy forming within it. You stretch it, you make it bigger and bigger. You put this over the container that you have your jar in, and you just let all of your intention flow through your fingertips into that jar. Then you would place the jar under direct sunlight for 2 hours at least. You can surround the jar with crystals. Be careful if you're using clear quartz. You don't want to start fires. And then after that point, you can enjoy your sun water. Some people like to drink it. Other people like to incorporate it in their spell bottles or into potions. Whatever use you have for it, this is kind of a very basic, easy peasy process in order to have some sun water at your disposal. And of course, label it. We probably don't talk about the need to label our supplies often enough, because we can fool ourselves into thinking, I'm going to remember. I will absolutely remember what that thing is. It's all up here. Well, it may be all up there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to retrieve it in a timely fashion. So yes, labels. We will talk about labels more at another time. Okay, video's back. The last thing that we might do today is to meditate on the topic of leadership. We don't see a lot of good examples around that. And ultimately, before people are able to lead or influence others, they have to learn how to lead themselves. And so even though, none of us might go out and be leading a movement or to be doing anything particularly public, learning how to lead ourselves is a means of developing a backbone, displaying moral character, and being the person willing to stand up and say something isn't right if it isn't right. And that all begins with just understanding the nature of what it is, how it can be implemented effectively, and just practicing that on ourselves. And then if we're in a position to where we are needing to lead other people for whatever reason, you know something a little bit about it, and you're going to be less likely to fall into very toxic bad habits that are very antithetical to leadership. And then finally for today, journaling. Your prompt is, are your thoughts in good order? And I took this from one of the 13 goals of a witch. This is a list of things that are common witchy goals. Essentially, what are we doing? What are we doing with all of our magical workings? What is the purpose of all of this? And it's a list that's oftentimes credited to Scott Cunningham. I don't know if he ever claimed ownership of it or how that went. If it was him and he decided to remain anonymous, I'm sure he had his reasons. But nevertheless, it is a list of goals that tend to resonate with a lot of people. And one of those things are keep your thoughts in good order. So what is the condition of our thoughts? Are we exercising that self-discipline to bring ourselves into a better mental place when things get difficult? And I was also struck by this quote that I found. The day that I decided that my life was magical, there was suddenly magic all around me. And that's Maribeth Quinn. And I think that she was absolutely correct about that. We do not see that which we are not looking for. And when it comes to magic, that takes me back to the charge of the goddess of, if you do not have it within you, you will never find it from without. It's very much in line with that kind of thinking. If we are going to connect with anything in the outside world, we're going to have that point of connection cultivated within ourselves. Otherwise, there's no way for that connection to form. So that's something just to maybe write about and see where your brain takes you about that today. But that will do it for this Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. If you would care to, you can follow me at Blackbird's Brew on X. And of course, the Blackbird Grimoire appears on both YouTube and Rumble. And the Oaken Elder Witchery is open for, well, no, I wouldn't say business because it's not a business. It's open for visitors. It's open for conversation. The link for that is in the description box. So if you would care to join, you are very welcome among us. You will have to make a Roblox account. You don't have to have anything to do with it after that. It's just some sort of partnership they have with Gilded. And then you can be around like-minded people. But I think that will do it for today, and I will see you next time. Bye.